Hello and welcome to Talking Aussie Books, a weekly podcast bringing readers and writers of Australian fiction together. I'm Claudine Tonellis. As an avid reader and passionate advocate for Australian fiction, I have made it my mission to spotlight local talent. So if you're looking for your next read or simply want to learn more about the Australian literary scene, this podcast is for you. Grab yourself a cuppa, sit back and relax. In May of 2024, listeners, I went on a writing retreat in the Blue Mountains with a group of exceptional women. 12 women who came together from around the country to spend 4 days learning and honing our craft. I'm happy to report that 2 from the group have since gone on to have their debut novels published. One is an indie author and the other with a commercial publishing house. Now, today I'm feeling super lucky to have the chance to speak with one of these women, Perth-based author Deb Jordan, who describes herself as a pianist, primary school teacher and pretend athlete, which I found really funny. Now, earlier this year, Deb's debut novel, The River Whispers, was published by Bloodhound Books, a UK-based independent publisher of commercial fiction. Now, this book is set between the Swan Valley and the Margaret River in WA. The River Whispers is a novel that centres around a tragic accident and its deadly aftermath. An assured debut from a talented storyteller that was as compulsive as it was entertaining. So I want to say congratulations, Deb.
Thank you so much. Oh, I loved how you introduced that. That was just amazing. Thank you.
My pleasure. It's been a few months now since The River Whispers was published. And so I guess I wanted to ask you, what has the experience of being a published author felt like? And has it been everything you imagined it would be?
It has been everything I imagined and so much more. So many unexpected things, no matter how prepared you think you can be for it. It's just been the most fantastic journey. But above it all is just that intense satisfaction and just, I guess, pride. Are you allowed to admit to being proud of your book? I'm just so proud to see it there. And it's not the result of just my hard work, but so many people and so much effort has gone into it. And it's just been the most incredible experience.
I love that, Deb. I hear so very few women say that they're proud of their work.
Oh, gosh, I am. I'm shameless in the way that I have piles of my books stacked around my house and I will put a little bunch of flowers, beside them, walk past, stroke them. I'm very proud of it and what it represents and, the work that's gone into it.
So tell me about your path to publication. How did you come to be published by Bloodhound Books?
I've always written, always loved writing, nothing new in that. Convinced my parents that, they needed to buy copies of my little books that you put out when you're a kid. But I was that very, I guess, one in COVID and thought, what am I going to do with my time? Oh, I'm going to write a book. And I think because of lockdown and things like that, yes, I wanted to prove that I could write more than 1,000 words. So got the book written. I happened to be in, the hotel quarantine where you're stuck in a hotel for 2 weeks. And I had no one to tell me that you were required to do more than a first draft before you send it out to people. So I sent my first draft out. I sent it to Fremantle Press and the lovely Rachel Hanson there was just amazing and gave me the most beautiful rejection. She met with me, she talked to me, she gave me so much encouragement and that compelled me to, basically she said, just go back and learn about the craft of writing and join a writing group and things like that, which I did. I joined a writing group, which was the Write Club with the amazing Holly Craig, learnt about the craft of writing, wrote a completely different manuscript where it was about, I think I decided I was going to stuff diamonds inside a rhinoceros and smuggle it out of Africa and all that sort of stuff. But I had so much fun learning the craft of writing. And then once I'd done that and put all these things into practice, I could look at my original manuscript, which is now The River Whispers, in a completely different light, wrote that, and all I kept from the original manuscript was the prologue. So it was a very different story, different tone, everything. And then had it assessed by Holly and Kate Thompson, and then saw that Bloodhound Books were open to submissions. I happened to be in the airport, thought, I've got everything ready. I'm going to send it off. I was actually finally ready this time. I'd done many drafts. So sent it off and 2 weeks later got a email. It wasn't from Bloodhound Books and it said offer of contract. And I thought it was a scam email and I nearly sent it straight to trash. it was a genuine offer, and many happy dances and all that later. So it was a roundabout way. It was a lot of learning how to write and putting into practice, and realizing that while you could write a nice sentence, it doesn't always equate to being able to tell a good story.
Yeah, fantastic. So how would you say it took from start to finish to write that new version of The River Whispers?
The new version of The River Whispers, I think because I had a strong sense of what I wanted to tell and was so motivated and just excited to tell the story, it probably took me 8 months, and that includes the assessment that Holly did and Kate reading it. And yeah, 8 months, but then you've got the lead time for the publication as well.
So I kind of want to ask a little bit more about Bloodhound Books, because there are obviously going to be writers listening to this podcast episode and thinking, oh, maybe Bloodhound Books is something for me. What was it like working with them? And was it like you would expect to be working with a traditional publisher here in Australia?
They were amazing. They were based in London, which I thought would be a amazing excuse to just go over, and I'm going to go and visit my publisher. I'm just going to go over to London. I didn't. No, they were great. Every time so when it was picked up by the commissioning editor, Rachel Tyra, and she's now on maternity leave, but she loved the book and was open. I had lots of chats with her, and then it was just sort of put on hold. We'll get back in touch with you. And it was about, they said they'd get back in touch with me, and it would be about 5 months before publication date, which I think went with a publisher in Australia is quite a short time frame from what I understand. So everything was very condensed at the final stage of it. So in that you had that quiet period of not much happening. But then once you did, yes, they said, okay, we're going to do a structural edit. We'll do all the normal round of edits and things that you would expect from a traditional Australian publisher. No, I don't think there were too many differences there.
And what about once it was published? Was there any sort of like marketing support from them?
Yes, there was some amazing marketing support. They put together this lovely, and I have it on my Instagram, this lovely little video and trailer of it all. And then they have newsletters and emails, and then a lot of their primary promotion is through Amazon. So what I liked about going with Bloodhound, and I tried Bloodhound before I approached any Australian publishers, was that I liked that they had that international reach and that your book would be available in all regions at the same time. So they marketed it well. They gave me all the graphics for me to do my own marketing. So I've been really pleased with them. And anytime I've got a query or anything like that, I can't find it. Where is it on Goodreads or something like that? And they just get back so quickly.
I love that for you, Deb. That is fantastic. Now, I've always been drawn to books that are not only written by Australian authors, but also have a unique Australian setting. And I'm loving the emergence of lots of fiction set in WA. So I wanted to ask you, was it always your intention to set the book there?
Yes. When I started writing that book, I was in WA. We'd just moved there. I was absolutely loving it. We landed there just before COVID hit. And I just fell in love with the landscape, the setting, the scenery, everything. I just had to immerse myself in it. So being by the river, things like that, seemed like the natural place to write about. Yeah. Authors talk about setting and scene becoming another character. And yeah, it felt like the right place for this story.
You said that you only just moved to Perth. So it's not your home city, so to speak.
No, we've spent over 20 years outside of Australia and landed in Perth. That was by way of South America for 7 years, West Africa, things like that. So coming back to Australia and just rediscovering what it was to be Australian and live in Australia again, and then being able to write about that.
Okay, so for those who haven't yet read your book, Deb, I wondered if you could tell me a little bit more about the story.
The River Whispers. It's a story of two friends and one tragic accident and one deadly secret. We've got Sasha. Her life was perfect until the car crash that destroyed her career as a concert pianist and her friendship with Abby. Abby was the one who was driving. So then, consumed by grief and blame, Sasha cuts Abby out of her life. But when Abby's body is found floating in a river and a newborn baby is abandoned nearby, Sasha is thrust into a deadly mystery she can't ignore. Meanwhile, Detective Sam Tierney, who's Sasha's ex, it turns out that Abby wasn't the only one that Sasha cut out of her life, works to unravel the case. As he works to do this, dark secrets emerge. So Abby was running from an abusive ex, a man willing to kill to keep her silent. Ignoring Abby's desperate calls for help, Sasha never knew how much danger her friend was in. So, with the killer closing in, Sasha must confront her guilt and risk everything to uncover the truth. I've told the story from 3 different viewpoints, and when I first wrote it, I tried to have Sam, the detective, and Sasha's ex in the current timeline. It's not a spoiler to say Abby's the one that's dead, because we've said that. Abby's body's found floating, so it's not a spoiler. I have her point of view as being snippets from the past, and I initially had Sasha's timeline counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 days until the inciting incident right at the beginning. So Sasha's going through this whole cycle of just blaming the whole world for what she's lost. The only person that she can really take it out on is her friends and her family. And then what is she going to do once, now that everything she knows, being able to play the piano, as a concert pianist was her entire life. So,
Deb, what inspired this story?
Again, coming back to, when you start writing, they say, write what you know. I know about music. I've always played the piano. I've studied piano since I was 5 years old. I thought music and playing the piano was going to be my life until I broke my hand by hitting a boy in high school who happened to be a good friend. It wasn't terrible, but I was being this nerdy little student outside English class with my nose in a book, and someone's poking me in the back, poke, poke, poke. I whipped around in all my ninja fierceness, and he thought I was going to karate chop him or something. And he puts up his hand, breaks my hand, and then, it healed badly. It wasn't, there are many, many months of rehab, things like that. And that was my, okay, what do I do now that I can't play the piano? Now that I don't have music as my career option. And so I drew on that. So the essential question in the book was, what do you do when everything you know has been taken away from you? And then trying to form a story around that. I loved the idea visiting the vineyards in Perth and the Swan Valley and Margaret River. Some people look at the vineyards and see, oh my gosh, look at these grapes, aren't they pretty? I thought, what if there's a baby abandoned here? So I wanted that thread to it. And then again, being by the Swan River and just in all its moody murkiness and the smells and the sounds. And I thought, gosh, what if there was a body floating in the river? Those elements all came together to drive the story forward.
I love that you've drawn on your personal experience with playing the piano for this story, because, as you say, the car accident that Abby caused is at the center of the events of this novel. And as you say, it effectively deprived Sasha of her career as a concert pianist. And to my core, I felt how deeply this really affected her, because not only was it her livelihood, unlike you, who sort of dreamed of a career as a musician or a pianist, with Sasha, this was her livelihood. She was actually living that dream of being a concert pianist. And it was also her identity. And it took some time for her to come to grips with what was left, didn't it?
It did, yes. I guess it was raising the stakes and what can you do to make things more dire and desperate and compelling for the reader. And so, yes, I wanted it to be her whole life and have everything wrapped up in it. And once it's taken away, there's like, what is there? What do I do?
I really felt that, because our identity is so often wrapped up in what we do for a living. While other people might not necessarily see those things the same way we do, we can often get caught up in this. And so Sasha's family, Abby and Sam, all saw beyond Sasha as the piano playing aficionado, but she couldn't, and her grief was all consuming.
Yes, and I wanted that to be the journey. And yes, there is a sad outcome in that she's lost her best friend through it all, but at the same time, we're seeing that growth of her and that awareness, hey, there is more to me than just Sasha the musician, Sasha the pianist, Sasha the person who walks out on stage. There is more to me than what the public sees. I just wanted to show that evolution. No matter what life throws at you, there is always something else you can take from it, another option, and just explore the resilience of people, of characters.
Absolutely. Now, Deb, you've covered some very topical and quite serious themes in this book. You've got a fractured friendship and a toxic relationship, to name a couple. Now, were these things that you consciously wanted to explore in the novel? And if so, why?
The fractured friendship, no, that came about as I was writing it. Again, with a toxic relationship, not something I've personally experienced. So I was very careful in how I wrote that, but I've got very, very close experience with it with a very good friend and had lived through that with her and seeing that control, like basically everything I've used in that with the controlling abusive ex is based on what I saw with her and what he did. And I left out some of the more graphic parts of what happened in her relationship as well. I ran everything by her first. You worry about appropriating people's experiences, and I didn't want to do that, but I didn't want to hide from it either. So, yes, this person did blame me for the way that Abby wanted to think independently or could do things. It's just that whole coercive control element.
I think one of the hardest things for friends or family to do is to watch on while someone they love makes a mistake or shows or judgment, especially where romantic relationships are concerned. And I'm hearing that this was something that came out of personal experience for you. How did you feel about writing that relationship between Sasha and Abby?
The relationship between Sasha and Abby, that's a good one to think about. In the days before, so when they were friends and Sasha was the one observing, it was like, why can't you see what he's doing to you? And I probably didn't voice it as, maybe obnoxiously as Sasha did. Like, can't you see he's controlling you? I didn't overtly say it like that. When I was with my friend, it was just letting her know you're there, that, you're there for her no matter what, and she'll come to you or be aware of what's happening when she's ready. But I think I used Sasha as a vehicle to say what I wished I could have said at the time as well. Like, why can't you see what he's doing? I think he locks her in a garden shed at one stage. That's not an accident. Of course it's not.
I really appreciate that you are trying to voice something that you wish you could have said directly to your friend through these wonderful characters.
Yes, that's right. Writing the words on the page and just having that freedom to just explore what he did and how mad I was at him for what he was putting her through, and didn't really think of it like that at the time, but it was very liberating to write those words. And there's a lot of scenes in there that did end up getting cut or that I cut regardless, but it was being able to work your way into the scene and write all that down. That was a great part of it.
I kind of want to talk a little bit more about that. And specifically, I want to talk about red flags and toxic masculinity, if I can. Because Sam, who, as you mentioned, was Sasha's partner, and he was also a friend to Abby, was also a police officer. And I struggled a little bit with both Sasha and Sam, thinking something was just off with Joe, who was Abby's ex, and kind of dismissing him as a bit of a dickhead, really. I mean, that's kind of what they said. We alluded to this a little bit earlier in your discussion, but I think what you've done incredibly well, Deb, is to show the complexity and the difficulty of calling out this behavior. Despite my frustration, I think that when you're in the midst of that, it's like you now looking back on that saying, I wish I had been able to say that stuff. But I think it is actually quite difficult to do that when you're actually in it and you're actually seeing it in front of you. And I think our tendency is to not want to believe that something really bad is happening to our friend.
I think you've struck the nail on the head there. Yeah, that tendency to not, like, no, that can't be right. That can't really be happening. And then it's only sort of once you're, a few degrees of separation and you can see what's happening. And so I think what I tried to do in the book was Sam didn't really have much of an overlap with Joe. So I did try to put that time distance in there because, like you said, as a police officer, I did want to be clear that, why he didn't step in at the time was because there wasn't really much of an overlap. So he only briefly met Joe before Joe was off the scene and Abby had the courage to leave him. So I did have, like Abby's character, having the courage to leave Joe and then finding a life for herself and moving forward. But yeah, being able to highlight what some of those red flags were as well. One of the first things for me, when I know I'm talking about the first experience, one of the first red flags to me was that, hey, something's not right in this relationship, was when my friend and I were out getting a foot massage and she said, oh, can you pay for this? I'll give you the cash. And I said, oh, no worries. And then it happened again not long after, and it was with a coffee or something like that. And I didn't say anything, but she says, oh, I just don't like, let's keep calling him Joe. I don't want Joe to see what I'm spending the money on. And I go, what? It's a coffee. And she says, oh, nobody can see where I've been. So that was the first red flag for me. And then just other little things. And it was only sort of further down the track and you put all those pieces together that you think this is not right.
In addition to people who are on the ground with, mostly women who are being affected by this kind of behavior and not really wanting to confront it, because it's not necessarily big things that you're seeing. It's lots of little things. It's not a big, drastic, threatening action. It's all of those little things.
The big, crescendo of it all came when we don't think anything of being able to make decisions for ourselves or go somewhere or, yes, I'm going to let my husband know if I'm going somewhere or planning a trip or going to do anything, but I'm not asking his permission. And I'd gone away. I was living in the US at the time. I'd gone away over to Maine on the East Coast and I said, oh, you should come and join me. And she hummed and hawed. And anyway, she did end up coming. And I was, oh, great. And I didn't think too much of it. Yay, she's joined me. And she got there and it was just this massive, like, oh, my God. And she was shaking and it was just like trying to articulate what a big deal it was for her to have hopped on the plane and gone away when it went against everything that he wanted. He didn't want her going away. I was a terrible influence on her. Why was she hanging out with me? But it was the fact that she had thought for herself, done something by herself. And I think that's when it was like, oh, my gosh, this really is a massive deal for her to do something that I just take for granted. Yeah. And that's really when all the pieces started falling into place.
Yeah. I'm so sad to hear that for your friend, but I guess you've poured a lot of these feelings into these characters here. And one thing that I wanted to touch on was Abby's unwillingness to confide in Sasha, the extent of Joe's controlling behavior, and even to Sam as a police officer. She didn't really go into this with them at all, did she?
No, and I didn't want to go too deep into why that happened because, again, it wasn't my mindset and it wasn't my experience. But it was what my friend was going through. She didn't confide in me and she's now left him and living an amazing life and living her best life, and I'm so proud of her. But it's not until now that she truly talks about what she was feeling. She was just so, just that feeling of being ashamed. And not even at the time. At the time, she didn't see that there was anything that wrong with what was happening. And even, I think, as things happened, she normalized it in these small increments. Each increment got, as it goes, it builds and builds until, what the first point was, pales in insignificance. So it was normalized in just small degrees.
So at the heart of this story, I think, is a story of friendship and second chances. And Sasha has to learn to come to terms with what's happened and to let go of the past in order to move forward with her life. This was quite a bittersweet lesson for her, wasn't it?
It really was. It's not something I hope anyone would go through and not something I've gone through, but you wanted to make it as compelling as possible for the reader, and just to see that what was being thrown at her, she did come through it and that she could still find a way to make music part of her life. She did manage to do that. Playing the piano wasn't the be all and end all. And then to actually be happy with it as well. I wanted that to come across that, hey, I've got a life that I'm so happy with now.
If there was one thing you'd like readers to take away from this novel, Deb, what would that be?
I guess it's that sense of resilience. From Sasha's point of view, everything's taken away from her, but she does find a way forward. She does get through the grief of losing her career and of losing her friend. Like that, they'll still always be with her, but she does find a path forward. For Abby, she does die, but you see her journey in there and what she's gone through. And again, it's that strength of character, it's that resilience and what you can achieve with help and support, and you can't do it alone. I wanted it also for people to realise that you don't have to do everything by yourself.
Now, I thought that I was the queen of writing retreats, Deb, but I've come to learn that you lot over there in WA, you also love a good writing retreat. And in fact, you're on one now, which is amazing.
I'm on a wonderful writing retreat in the Southern Highlands. It's the Writers at the Woolshed. And yeah, it's fabulous. I'm sitting in front of the fire here. I'm on a workshop with Lee Kaufman, and oh my gosh, it's just fabulous.
Yeah, fantastic. There was one that you did on Rottnest Island recently that I was feeling quite envious about.
What I love about a writing retreat, like I like to think of, okay, what do I want out of a writing retreat, or what would I enjoy? And it's just that sense of having the freedom to put everything aside for a while, focus on writing, but feel a little bit indulged and looked after as well. And just to have just a friendly, relaxed, creative vibe around you. And, if you can do that with a lovely cheese platter and some sunset canapes and yoga on the beach in the morning and talking to some amazing authors and industry insiders and just bringing all those elements together. I love that idea of bringing different elements together and seeing people enjoy it all. So
Fantastic. And so you've got such a lovely community of writers over there in WA. So you're all sort of fairly close, aren't you?
when I started writing, I just did not appreciate the writing community that was there. And when I dipped my toe into it, it was just like so amazing. And it's just incredible how generous and welcoming and inspiring these people are. And it kind of does leave you a bit speechless with how incredible it is.
Talking about community, you and I will be at the Festival of Fiction in Perth later this year, an event which I'm very much looking forward to. So I wondered if you could tell me how you came to be involved in that festival and what would you like people to know about the program and what you're specifically involved in?
Okay, yeah, the Festival of Fiction, that started last year with the wonderful, amazing, I can't think of, there's so many superlatives you could use for Tess Woods. And it was her baby with it all. I went along to it. I'd heard about it and was lucky enough to get tickets to it last year, and then just very shamelessly put myself up as, like a volunteer, because I just wanted to be involved in any way that I could. So that's how I got involved with it last year. And then Tess very kindly asked if I'd be on the committee this year, and found out that I had a book coming out this year as well. So she was just, oh my gosh, Deb, you can be on a panel. Like you said about the community of writers in WA as well. I wasn't getting involved with the Festival of Fiction with the aim to being on the panel, but it was just so beautiful that Tess did invite me to be there. And this year, the program is running over 2 days because it was such an incredible success last year. I know I'm on a panel with Mem Fox and BM Carroll, Anna Feinberg, and it's being moderated by Carrie Cox, who's another local Perth author and, good friend. So I'm really looking forward to that panel and what she's going to throw at us there. We've got some publishers and agents coming along as well. There will be the chance to pitch to our publisher or agent as well. And it's just going to be an amazing 2 days. I'm so excited about it.
Me too. I think it's going to be fantastic, Deb. Thanks so much for sharing all of that information. Now, Deb, you might know that there are writers who listen to this podcast. And so I was wondering, given your experiences, and I know this is your debut novel, but I wanted to know if you had some tips to offer other people out there who might be looking to get published.
The main one for me is to just always keep learning about the craft of writing. Always be reading, listening to podcasts. That was one of my main, and it still is, listening to podcasts, attending workshops and writing retreats, clearly. For me, it's about having that blend of reader satisfaction and blending that with the craft of storytelling, having the confidence with your own voice. Was it Tim Winton that said having confidence is a discipline? So having that discipline of learning and having that whole cycle. So in a roundabout way, just always be learning about the craft of writing. And I think if I had to have one more thing, it would be don't get lost in I like this one, the analysis paralysis. Okay, so sometimes you can just get so locked up in analysing what you've done, what you should be doing, researching things that you forget about the actual writing. So just try and find that balance between learning and getting the words down.
Fantastic tips, Deb. Thank you so much. I have simply loved chatting with you today about your fabulous debut, The River Whispers, and I can't wait to catch up with you again in real life in Perth this coming October. Thank you so very much for joining me on Talking Aussie Books today.
Oh, thank you so much, Claudine. It really has been an absolute honour. And yeah, I can't wait for October. It's going to be so amazing. Yay.
That's it for this episode, folks. Hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. If so, I'd love it if you'd leave a review on your preferred listening platform, which may include Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon Music. Until next time, friends, happy reading.